Welcome to another episode of SportsVibe, episode 105. Back here at Andrew Rice. A little bit of a lull, but it's good to get back into the next episode of this college football playoff series. I have a feeling there probably won't be too many more related to that. Obviously, we got the, I guess, look, the semis, recap, and then into national championship. We NFL playoffs are also starting this weekend, so we might start to mix that in as well. It's probably the plan, but for this episode, college football quarterfinals recap. It's a little bit overdue, but I guess we've both been busy. I was recovering from kind of my sickness, and also the semis, are coming up starting tomorrow with the first game between Ole Miss and Miami. But yeah, I mean, it's still not too late to go over the quarters and set the stage for tomorrow's semifinals. But I guess first of all, I mean, like we can maybe we could talk about some of the other New Year's bowl games real quick, or yeah, the New Year's weekend bowl. There wasn't a weekend, but because there was like a lot of good college football, I guess, going on. So I mean, I guess we could just start with the pre playoff bowl games, I guess, because we already talked about the other ones before that. But yeah, I mean, a lot of excitement, like Illinois taking down Tennessee on the last second field goal. TCU upsetting USC. That was another one. I got to watch more during the New Year's Eve slate. I know you did too. I mean, Iowa-Vanderbilt was a very good game that it was pretty exciting. I mean, Iowa ended up going up 21-3, and then Vanderbilt ended up coming back, and it was like kind of contrasted styles. I was kind of like more methodical, and Diego Pavia was kind of showing why he ended up getting Heisman runner up, and he was zipping the ball downfield. I mean, Vanderbilt did fall a little bit short at the end. Which Iowa finally beat a ranked opponent for the first time in several years was, I guess, the big picture takeaway from that one, which they had not done in a few years. But another good one that delivered was Michigan-Texas. That one kind of went back and forth too. I think there's a lot of questions on how Michigan would look after everything happened with Sharon Moore and getting a new coach and this and that. But they looked pretty. Yeah, I mean, Michigan looked pretty good. Texas looked better. Arch Manning eventually just decided to put the game on his back, and ended up taking off for a touchdown. It was definitely a fun, exciting shootout. And I mean, both of them, I kind of didn't really have a choice. I ended up just I kind of just had to be on the couch and watch both of them, and but I mean, those two games I think really did deliver and kind of did set the stage for the playoff, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you know what? That Iowa Vanderbilt game was especially interesting because, as you mentioned before, Iowa raced out to a 21-3 lead, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah, like that's not Iowa.
that's not Iowa
Iowa's not the
football.
team. Iowa's not the team that should be racing out to a lead on you. They're the team that, you know, as you mentioned, methodical, move down the field, everything like that. They're not supposed to be that high, not even high flying, but they're not supposed to race out to an 18-point lead against
Right,
you. I don't care who
exactly.
you are. It's
Yeah,
just so much unexpected happened during that slate. Iowa pulled off the win against a ranked Vanderbilt team. Unranked Illinois took down a ranked Tennessee team. Um, so yeah,
right.
so much happened during that slate, and I believe that the Big Ten is at the time was like 8-4 in bowl games.
Yeah, pretty up there, I think.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
like,
the
yeah,
and the SEC was like completely flipped at
exactly.
8.
Yeah, I think so. I think Big Ten was like at one point they're like 6-1 or something in bowl games, and it might have been like 8-4, or like 8-2. Like yeah, and then SEC was definitely really struggling. Yeah, I mean that's kind of what happened. I mean, especially Illinois beating Tennessee, Iowa beating Vanderbilt. I think TCU over USC was the only Big Ten loss prior to that point, and then obviously Texas, beat Michigan. So that kind of put a damper on it. But that just got us set up for, for the New Year's Eve playoff slate, which obviously was very exciting. And yeah, I mean, it, it definitely really started off with a bang on New Year's Eve itself because Ohio State versus Miami. I mean, I think that one gave us our first big, surprise or stunner of the playoff. Yeah, I think so because the first round was kind of chalky. Yeah, so I mean, but this one was quite the way to start. I mean, Miami jumped out to a 14-0 lead over Ohio State. They just did it with a lot of physicality on both sides of the line of scrimmage. I mean, both Mesidor and Ruben Bain ended up getting to Julian Sain multiple times and putting a lot of pressure, sacking him. And Keontae Scott had the pick six where he just jumped the route, read it beautifully. So you know, that was another thing that really changed the momentum of the game. But I mean, Miami just really, I mean, they just dominated in the trenches on both sides of them. They outgained the Buckeyes on the ground, 153-45. So, I guess the old saying like "run the ball, stop the run." Jeremiah Smith had 157 yards and touchdown, and Ohio State actually did make a nice comeback with Smith scoring one, and it looked like they kind of had momentum. They were punching right back, and they tied the game. They didn't tie the game, but they were down 17-14 after being down 17-7. They got the ball back when they were down by three, but then again, Miami came back with their defense and swarmed them, got the ball back, and then they just held the ball the rest of the time, kept the ball on the ground, and they were able to get all the way to the end zone for a touchdown, and basically not leave Ohio State with a lot of time on the clock, and saying that, they couldn't get their Hail Mary drive going. I mean, I'm saying got intercepted for the second time, but yeah, I mean, it's just like Miami just really pulled off quite the upset. But they did it in a way that it didn't really even look like an upset. They did it in a very, systematic, methodical, more like, I mean, physical, dominating the line of scrimmage. I mean, that was like the key
That
to
was
this
the big
game.
surprise, though. That
Yeah,
was the big surprise with how physical they were up front. They were actually able to rattle Sand a little bit,
yeah,
force him out of his normally. He was such a machine throughout the regular season. And then I guess the lights got a little bit too bright for the young quarterback. But I guess I have to kind of retract my statements that I made in the last couple of these podcasts. It appears that Miami is going to be our Cinderella of the playoff this
right,
year.
yeah,
Last year was Notre Dame. Um, I would say a little bit Notre Dame was the Cinderella. This year it looks like it's going to be Miami. Um, yeah, I mean, like outside of Miami fans, who like if you really sat down and thought between the Ohio State and Miami game, who would have thought Miami? And really,
I know,
especially Ohio
yeah,
State, they looked so efficient all year. They looked great in the ground game.
yep,
Julian Sand looked solid in the pass game. That defense is a force to
defense,
be reckoned with. And then all of a sudden, everything that we just said about Ohio State's offense was essentially null and void once they matched up against the Hoosiers and the Hurricanes. Maybe
yeah,
it's just teams that start with H that vex the Buckeyes, but you know, it was just very surprising in the sense that we're so used to this high level of expectations from Ohio State, this high level of execution, and even from Julian Sayin himself, he looked great all year,
yeah,
and then just next to nothing really when it mattered. So
yeah,
it was almost like that shock, but he's a young quarterback. He doesn't have any playoff experience until now. You
right,
know, he's gonna he's gonna terrorize the Big Ten for seasons to come, and you can bet on that any day. It's just very very surprising that they really could not get anything going in either game.
yeah, nothing at all. I mean, like 10 points against Indiana, 14 against Miami. I mean, their offense is completely shut down. I mean, but I think, a lot of it was them getting sacks, both teams. The Hoosiers got, I think, like five or six, maybe not, but at least I think, yeah, like 4 or 5 sacks. And Miami got like quite a few too. I mean, they were struggling to block. And once that happens, it's hard to keep that offense going. I mean, even with the playmaking that Ohio State has. So I think that was the main thing that they were able to do that, and they also shut down the run. They shut down Bo Jackson in this game, as I mentioned. They only had 45 rushing yards. And yeah, I mean, defense on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, Ohio State could have been better too. I think. I mean, they were Miami was able to when it mattered most, they were able to score, drive down, get points. Season high 24 allowed against them, I want to say, in that game again at the end, because they really hadn't allowed anywhere near that all season. Yeah, I mean, I think the highest, the next highest is like I don't know, 15 points or something, like against Illinois. But yeah, nobody had really gotten to 24. But Miami, yeah, was just dominant on both sides of the line. They got pressure to stay in. They shut down the run game, and they were able to run the ball themselves, move the ball. You kind of with the so up and down the field. So I mean, they really dominated on the ground. They didn't really have too much of a reliance on like a heavy pass game, but they kind of did mix it up with those passing shots. Using their receivers like Tony, kind of that horizontal pass game, but kind of get some attention away from Fletcher at times to keep the drives going. But they did, they were able to do all of that. And, when it mattered most, they were able to just keep the ball on the ground. So, yeah, I mean, this is how you build a football team. I mean, like, they.
But again, you can't tell me that you didn't look at this game and go, okay, wow, that's probably going to be an Ohio State win. They
Yeah, I mean,
they
I
squeaked past
obviously did think so.
they squeaked past Texas A&M because they were able to uh, push them around on the line of scrimmage a little bit. They did
Yeah.
that against the Aggies, but you
Hmm.
know, you were looking at this game, you realize like, okay, that advantage that they had against Texas A&M is going to be null and void because Ohio State's lines are legit. But
Right.
that kind of reminds me of something that on our other podcast we had a guest on from Ohio State when Rutgers played them. Um, didn't he mention something about how the offensive line was a little bit shaky this season? I could be wrong, but did he mention
Yeah,
that?
I think he did at one point. Yeah, I think he did say that the line was a little bit shaky at some spots,
Well,
but that,
if he did say that, which we're both pretty sure that he did, this showed it. This
you
game
know,
showed that, especially in pass protection, Ohio State's offensive line
yeah,
was shaky.
they could have used some work. I mean, they were allowing pressure. I mean, against both of, yeah, like I said, Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor, really good players. I mean, the whole defense was really on fire. So I mean, yeah, they could have done a better job protecting Sayan. Yeah, I mean, by the way, I mean, while we're on this subject, I mean, shout out Motere for, he also played a role in that victory. I feel like the whole defense did, the whole line did, the linebackers did too. I mean, everybody swarming to the ball, getting their hands to the ball, like things like that. Like I mean, they just made life difficult, for Julian Sane for that offense, pretty
Well,
much the entire
that's
time.
what you're going to see out of a Corey Heatherman defense. We've had experience with Corey Heatherman as our linebackers coach. Looking at his defensive unit in Miami now, that's just what an improvement for them.
Yeah, I mean that defense looked really really good. Yeah, I mean mm, I mean they looked really like enormously good, but yeah, I mean I guess Miami's definitely for real, but I mean like they're in the semifinals, so even if they like bow out at this point, like I mean that's a
There's
big
no pretenders anymore.
yeah,
Everybody that
exactly,
makes it to the Final Four is a contender
right.
automatically.
Yeah, automatically, just yeah, I mean just because of that, yeah, they are. I guess what does it say about, like, I mean, Miami and the ACC? I mean, the whole playoff, controversy, because they were one of the last teams in. They were the last team in at large, and I mean, like, I guess it's kind of like, I feel like the ACC kind of gets a bad rap because, like a lot of people don't really think that they're that good and stuff. Like, I mean, like I know, like sometimes we think it as well, but I mean, even on the better, end of the conference, like, like the way Clemson's been, SMU, like, they lost to Penn State, like even sometimes like their better teams, like, are like nowhere near, but Miami, like, it's just kind of like a Miami exception that they kind of just have the NIL money, they built it differently, and it's not really like a lot of teams in the ACC could do that, but they did. Because, or is it more like, does that maybe say something about the conference? Like, I guess, like, what's your like point of view about all of that?
Well, I think what you really have to do is take a look at all the bowl games that each conference is in and look at their winning percentage. For example, you know, the ACC, believe it or not, is second to only one conference in terms of bowl game record this season. I just pulled up the statistics on
Oh,
my one tab here. You'll never guess what conference they are second to. They are second to the Big Ten. The Big
right.
Ten is 9-4 in bowl games, but the ACC is 8-4 in bowl games. Um,
Hmm.
Follow that up, like you want to look at the other power conferences. The Big Ten 9-4, the ACC 8-4, the Big 12 4-4, and the SEC 4-9. So,
Wow. Okay.
yeah, really, really not good from the SEC. Really, really good from the ACC.
Right.
Well, I think that just says it right then and there that this is a underrated ACC conference. At least for this one season in particular. You know, because in reality, the way to judge how certain teams compare against one another is or certain conferences compare against one another is in their out of conference schedule. The
Yeah.
ACC this this season has had several notable out of conference wins, but they've also had some terrible out of conference losses. For example, champion Duke lost to Illinois in the beginning of the season.
Hmm.
But on the flip side, college football playoff team Alabama lost pretty convincingly to Florida State, to
That's
five
true.
and
They do
seven
have
Florida
some.
State. So, just looking at the bowl games, and bowl games are largely out of conference gigs. The ACC not doing too bad this year.
Yeah, yeah. That is true. I mean, they're definitely, doing pretty good. It's weird to say, I feel like, but yeah, I mean, not only Miami, Virginia won their bowl game. I mean, so many of these other teams, like, yeah, this year actually the ACC's look pretty, I would say, legitimate. I think that definitely did prove in the playoff. I mean, they have like one quite elite team, but these bowl games. I mean, yeah, Duke, kind of had a lot of their losses non-conference, but they got a win over Arizona State in the Sun Bowl. So I mean, Virginia actually looked pretty legit. I mean, you know, um, yeah,
Well,
SMU, they got a bowl win. So yeah, I mean, some of these top teams in the conference, I would say, looked pretty good overall.
let's talk about the ACC playing against Power Five opponents in bowl games, right? Because I have that
Mhm.
up here too. Um, Miami obviously handled Texas A&M. Um, wow. Okay. There's really not a lot in terms of okay. Georgia Tech took wow, they lost to BYU. Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Virginia beat Missouri in the Gator Bowl. Duke beat Arizona State. Miami beat Ohio State.
yeah.
Wake Forest took down Mississippi State.
Oh,
SMU took down Arizona, and then Miami still has yet to match up against Ole Miss. But while the ACC actually doesn't have that many wins over Power Four opponents, because look, NC State smacked around Memphis. Toledo took care. I mean, sorry, Louisville took care of Toledo. Hawaii beat Cal. East Carolina beat Pitt, and
right.
Penn State beat Clemson.
Yeah,
BYU beat Georgia Tech.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's seems to be a lot of like against lower bowl opponents. But either way, you can't take away from the fact that they are 8-4 in bowl games.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. So I mean, like looking pretty legit out there, I guess you could say. I mean, I think Miami definitely does spearhead that by a long margin. Making it to the semifinals. But yeah, the conference overall is definitely delivering in bowl season, which is a good indication. Like you think of the non-conference in the beginning of the season and marquee wins, like over Florida State over Bama. But I mean, yeah, like at this point in the season, this is when it matters, the most. And this really does prove, I mean, who's who and what's what, playing against other conferences and bowl games. But yeah, I mean, that is pretty good. I guess on the other side of the equation, you have Ohio State. I mean, where do you go from here? Like, obviously they won the national championship last season. They beat Michigan this season. They snapped a long losing skid, but I don't know. Does Ryan Day kind of still get deserved criticism, or is it kind of overblown? Because I feel like even after all of that, like we're kind of
Well,
back to
first
like
of all,
Ryan Day.
Ryan Day we all know is not the best coach in college football.
Right.
Like he's
Yeah.
good, don't get me wrong. He's not the best. Does he deserve criticism? Kind of. I mean, first of all, beating Michigan matters, and
Yeah.
to be what, 2-4, 2-5 against Michigan,
Something like that.
beating Michigan matters to Ohio State fans. And when you don't, you should be criticized because you should know that it matters. You know, it does matter to the Buckeyes.
Hmm.
Not winning Big Ten championships, that matters. You know,
Yeah.
Ohio State has not taken home a Big Ten championship since 2020.
I know
Um,
that's unreal to think about. Yeah, that's true.
he does have a national championship in there, and that's great. And while that right there says that okay, he should not be like fired or something like that. Like
Right. Yeah.
I don't understand the whole argument of oh, we're really good, but we're not going where we want to go. So
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
least not for the Buckeyes. If for Penn State, it's for Penn State when they fired Franklin, it was different.
Right,
They
because
were
they were
they
losing
were
every big game, and
right.
yeah, and then they started losing more. So yeah, I mean, I think at that point they just kind of just didn't have a choice, like whether they really wanted to or not. Like they
But
it could,
my
yeah,
argument is for Ryan Day on his behalf is that
right.
the expectation should not be that you win every big game all the time. No, the expectation should be you win big games and you do take home titles, but you don't do it every year because to expect that is
I mean,
ridiculous.
yeah, every year's, yeah. That's I mean, right. Like, yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing. Like with Penn State, it was just they weren't winning big games. They started losing other games too. But like it was kind of like, if not now, when? Like they kind of put a lot of attention on Oregon because that's really was kind of like, okay, we're the favorites, this and that. We got to get this done. This is our year, and that just doesn't happen. So Ohio State like has proven it that they can do that. They have, I mean, I guess other than Michigan, they've pretty much run the Big Ten, and they've kind of struggled in the big moments too. But they've been able to get over the hump. They've been able to win some of them, and yeah, you can't expect a team to win every big game every year, win every championship. Like that's just like not like logically possible. But yeah, I mean, I think they should be able to win more than they lose. Like those types of
Well,
things. But
yes, but in the argument of where do they go from here, where do they go? They go into the offseason and they prep for next season. There is
yeah,
no need for a changing of the coach. There's
right.
no need for a
Yeah.
changing of the quarterback. Where they go is that they go back into the locker room and they start prepping for next season.
Reload. I mean, yeah, that's because all the talent. They're gonna be again losing a lot of their defense to the draft, just like this year. Didn't phase them too much. Offensively, I mean, they still have another year of Jeremiah Smith. They're gonna have Bo Jackson. They're gonna have Julian Sayin. Colonel Tate will be going, but yeah, a lot of their foundation will still be there. So reload. I mean, it's Ohio State. I'm sure they'll be all right. But
I'm sure they have just as many 4 stars and 5 stars behind the current set of 4 stars and
exactly.
5 stars.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, Ohio State's still Ohio State, so I mean, they'll be okay. I guess going on to our next game into the new year, we have Oregon versus Texas Tech. And this one was like an ugly defensive slugfest, but kind of, but at the same time, it was kind of like a battle of attrition. It was like, I mean, who could move the ball more? I think Oregon was definitely more successful from the very beginning of moving the ball. Even though
Well,
it didn't,
evidently, yeah. I
yeah, I mean,
mean,
Texas
Texas
Tech.
Tech couldn't do anything.
Yeah, they could
Like,
not. They really could not, especially in the beginning of the game. They just could not at all. Oregon was able to kind of slice their way enough. I mean, Texas Tech's defensive line is legit, very good, but Oregon was able to move the ball on them, go up 6-0 at half. And then even the second half, I mean, the Red Raiders started moving the ball downfield a little bit. They kind of had a couple splash plays, but on a consistent basis, they were just not able to get the ball downfield. We're not able to really score. And even in the one time when they got close, I mean, Brandon Finney, I think had a couple I think he had an interception, a fumble recovery, and I think I mean, Texas Tech's defense is very legit, but their offense, although might be good against other opponents, like I guess when it really comes to push and shove, like that unit still needs work, whatever they did in the portal and everything. I mean that they were not able to get it done against like a marquee opponent. So, with a defense that yeah, I mean, Texas Tech's defense is very good. I think Oregon proved that their defense, is even better and probably among if not the best in the country. I mean, the way they played, after there's a lot of questions about Oregon, they let up 500 yards, 34 points against James Madison. Might have been against backups a little bit at the end, but overall, I mean, they just took their foot off the gas. In this game, they needed it for 60 minutes, and they delivered. I mean, they deliver in a big way. They held them out of the end zone. I mean, that's another college playoff team that you're holding out of the end zone. It's not an easy task by any means. Yeah, I mean, I think it shows that Texas Tech has some offensive deficiencies that might have been masked by like Big 12 competition. It also does show that Oregon's defense is absolutely legit because I mean, to hold a team like that to 0 points, like that's just not easy to do. And in a game where the offense, it took some time, they played a defense that could slow them down a bit. I mean, their defense on the other side of the ball just did not let up, did not let up, did not let up. And that's kind of how that game went. And eventually Oregon just wore them down and they were able to go up 16-0, 23-0. It's like really backbreaking and hard, almost like hard to watch in a way. Like if you're even rooting for them like 1%, but that's just they just really did feel like they lost the war of attrition. And seeing Oregon kind of break them was kind of rough because there's a lot of high hopes going in. Jacob Rodriguez, all those guys. But I mean, the Ducks definitely deserve the win. And my goodness, what a defensive performance there from Oregon.
yes, it was. But first of all, I don't know if Texas Tech's offense was quite on the level of a college football playoff team. But second of all, I think this game could have been a lot worse in terms of a blowout if Oregon left points on the board. They really did. On several occasions they left points on the board. They could have at least scored another 6, um, had they not chosen to go for it in a couple
Mm,
situations. You know,
right,
they at least left 6 points on the board in terms of field goals and whatnot. You know,
right.
but that's just me. Dan Lanning is an aggressive, possibly overzealous coach, but yeah, that's all I'm thinking is that this game could have been worse. You know, had had Oregon taken advantage of all of its opportunities to score rather than risking gambling and having it not go their way.
Right.
So I don't think this game was particularly as close as the scoreboard or the situation calls for. I think it was only that way because Lanning made some dumb decisions.
Yeah, I think he did too. He kind of just took some risks when ended up going for it a couple times.
And it didn't work. That was the big
No.
thing. And honestly, when he did those, I didn't understand why. Like I didn't understand I was like, what are you doing here? You know?
Hmm. Yeah. It seemed like kind of just random spots that he was doing that in. I guess it kind of worked out for them in this game, but playing the field position game, I don't know. I mean, I'm not exactly sure because it looked like they're in complete control of the game at the time. So I mean, Yeah. I
All I'm saying
mean,
is that the scoreboard could have been worse.
it could have. Yeah, they could have scored more points for sure. But maybe they're just trying to. I don't know. Maybe they feel like they can go for it, or working against Texas Tech's defense. I guess you feel like you have to take advantage of every shot you're given, type thing. So I mean that
You know?
maybe that played a role in it too, because the whole game was like who's gonna break through, like who's gonna stay on the field, and like the few time in a lot of time in the first half it was Oregon that was doing that. So it's kind of like if you gotta take those shots. You don't want to like go for a field goal, but I mean they did go for a couple in the beginning, and then I think after that they wanted separation, which is why they started rolling the dice. But yeah, I mean they probably didn't need to, but yeah, Morton did not look good. I mean he had 18 for 32, 137 yards and two picks. Definitely a really tough game for him. I mean, Jacoby Williams had 13 carries, 81 yards. The receiver, Terrence Carter, 9 receptions, 72. But, even when they were able to, I mean, kind of move the ball a little bit, just not a lot going for them. Oregon, I mean, I think those are definitely a product of the how good the defenses were, because neither quarterback really like popped off. I guess like I think the deep plays Oregon just really didn't really have a lot of that, but Dante Moore had kind of a more efficient kind of game. He had 26 of 33, 234 in an interception. Davison had 42 yards and two touchdowns. It looked like kind of like almost pedestrian like offenses, which is weird when you think of like Texas Tech and Oregon. I mean, they've been like running up the scores on people all year, but that just shows like where these defenses were. And, yeah, I mean, a lot of people gave Texas Tech, the nod because of their defense. I mean, that's what I was thinking. I was like, this defense is legit. If the offense could just do enough, like they should be able to win the game. But yeah, the offense was just nowhere near good enough to hold their own. And I was thinking, I was kind of a little bit worried about their offense. I was like, how are they gonna like? Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really sure. I was like, how are they gonna be able to hold on offense? Is their offense good enough to move the ball on their defense? But at the same time, like, um, yeah, I kind of did have my question marks about the Texas Tech offense. I guess I was like, how are they going to do against Oregon's defense? Because I think the big matchup was the other way around. It was Oregon's top ranked, passing offense, rushing offense. I mean, explosive plays, everything against Texas Tech's lights out defense suffocating. And the other side of the ball was like, oh yeah, I mean, I think he'll be fine. Like, like why not? Like Oregon's a little bit weaker that side. Texas Tech's also a little weaker on the offensive side, but it should work out. But no, it just absolutely did not work out. So I mean, whatever happened on the other side of the ball was, really like elite on elite. Oregon also, I think, still was able to, kind of win that one later on, their offense versus the defense. But yeah, on the other side of the ball, I mean, Oregon's defense, Texas Tech had like no answer. They were completely flummoxed. And I guess that just shows where, Texas Tech still needs some work done. I mean, to get to the next level. I mean, they've taken a huge jump from where they were to this point. I mean, but they ended up getting Brennan Thorsby in the portal from Cincinnati. So I mean, I guess they have a quarterback for next season already. So pieces are starting to come into place, but they do need some work on the offensive side of the ball, and I think that's what really cost them in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much that's really going to elevate them. Obviously
Yeah.
Cincinnati was good. I have not watched Thorsby's tapes, so don't really know what's going on over there. But I don't know if that's going to take them over the top. But I think we need to. I think there's another elephant in the room game that
Mm.
we really need to address.
Yeah,
We need
literally
to
the
shed
elephant
some
in
light
the
on. If
room.
we want to do that next, that's fine. If we want to save that, that's fine. But there is one game that we absolutely need to shed some light on.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, why don't we just keep this outline rolling along? I mean, in the second half of the games, how about the Hoosiers against the Crimson Tide? I mean, my goodness,
Oh
like
boy. Oh
complete
boy.
domination there from Indiana. I mean, they just absolutely killed them from start to finish. Like this one just looked ugly. I mean, Alabama got a couple sacks early in there on Mendoza, and I was like, okay, and kind of stalled them on the first drive. I think Indiana missed a field goal if I'm not mistaken, but it was 0-0 through the first quarter. But once the second quarter started, like, I mean, oh man, like, I mean,
Oh my
yeah.
lord.
Like wow, I mean, yeah, they were just dominating. I mean Mendoza was just like lights out. I mean, 14 for 16, 192, 3 touchdowns. I mean, you look at the stat sheet. I mean, it just really says it all. I mean, they just got Alabama could just not move the ball on them. Like, I mean, they were just going, just out. I mean, like 3 and out, early and out. I mean, Ty Simpson really struggled. He ended up getting injured, suffered a cracked rib, unfortunately, and the tie finished with Austin Mack later on in the game. But even when he was there, just they couldn't do a lot. I mean, yeah, their Indiana just dominated running the ball. I mean, 215 rushing yards and Alabama had 23, so they completely took Alabama off the ground. Through the air, I mean, a little bit more even, but they just weren't able to get anything of substance going. Charlie Becker had 51 touchdown. I think each of their three big receivers, Surratt had a touchdown. Omar Cooper had an end zone touchdown. Charlie Becker had a touchdown. Um, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like, it just didn't like really look good for Alabama. It was just like completely dominant. I mean, Alabama was getting pressure sacks. I mean, getting them off the field, like stopping them from running the ball. I mean, they just kind of couldn't really like do much of anything like all game. I mean, so yeah, I mean, this is just like complete domination from IU. I mean, they just I mean, again, you dominate the trenches, you dominate the game, and that's pretty much like what happened there. Just just wasn't close, and Indiana's getting short fields. Mendoza was getting it to the end zone, doing what he does as a Heisman winner, and I mean, yeah, getting touchdowns to all three of the big receivers, Becker, Cooper, and Surratt, 2 touchdowns for in the run game. I mean, Roman Hemby, I thought had a nice game as well. He had 89 yards and a rushing touchdown, just average just under 5 yards a carry. Kalian Black, same thing. He had 99 yards, 6.6 rushing yards, and a touchdown. So the ground game was definitely eating. And on the other side of the ball, like I said, it was not, they
It
were
was
not doing
starving.
anything. Yeah, yeah, pretty much. I mean, Indiana was eating 215 rushing yards. They just, had it all day, and then Alabama just didn't. And that was really the difference because then, pressure was all on Ty Simpson, and, there's only
This
so much
is
of that you could take. Yeah.
this is one of those losses in the college football playoff that is so bad that if Alabama is on the fringe next year of getting in, they might
Right.
have to go the other way because of this. You know, I mean,
Maybe.
obviously Alabama was a fringe team this year. Personally, I've said it a billion times. I don't think they should have been in over Notre Dame. Alabama had 3 losses. Notre Dame had 2. Like that's my argument. That's it. No team with 3 losses deserves to be in the college football playoff. I don't care who you are. But yeah, so the whole point is that Alabama, and I think we all know this as much as nobody wants to admit, Alabama was a pretender. They would not have beaten Oklahoma if Oklahoma didn't go, "Hey, here's the win. Take it. Like,
Right.
please take this win from us."
Yeah.
Which they did. Alabama, like uh, that was like the Luigi wins by doing nothing meme, you know, where he's just standing there and everybody else falls off the platform. That's literally what it was. And then when
Right.
they got to go and play a real contender, they got exposed for what they were, you know? And this might be such a bad exposure that if Alabama is on the fringe of making the playoffs again with a 10-3 record, it's going to be a little bit like, okay, we learned our lesson. That's not happening again. I hope that they don't use their win over Oklahoma to justify because that was less about an Oklahoma win. I mean, sorry, that was less about an Alabama win and more about an Oklahoma loss. There's no team in the college football playoff that should be relenting a 17-point lead in the first half unless they literally give the other team the win.
Right.
which they did in terms of letting them get a blocked punt, letting them get a pick six. You know, that was just a poor read, poor execution, and yeah, I mean, there's no other really way to slice it. Alabama was handed a win from Oklahoma, and then when they went up and go played against a real contender that wasn't just going to give them momentum, they got exposed for what they were.
Yeah.
Hopefully, again, if Alabama goes 12-0 next season, of course they deserve to be in. But if they're 10-3, no, no.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
this game proves it.
yeah, I mean, you're putting in a team with 3 losses, a bad one to Georgia on top of that, in the SEC championship game where they looked overmatched. Like,
They lost to a team that went 5-7.
I know you're losing
Okay,
to Florida State in the beginning of the year.
it doesn't
Yeah,
matter if it's in the beginning of the year because if you want to talk about the beginning of the year, Notre Dame lost to two college football playoff teams in the beginning of the year. You know,
well,
they
and then
didn't lose to they didn't lose to Boston College in the beginning of the year. You know, they didn't
right,
lose to Syracuse at the beginning of the year. I'm pretty sure they beat Florida State. So
yeah.
there's no argument.
Yeah, I mean, I think this game definitely proved like who they were, and yeah, even the last game. I mean, the way they won because basically momentum shifted back to them. They got a lot of free points. You know what I mean? So yeah, that definitely put them over the edge. But this one was just
What's that? What's that one coach? He said they are who we thought they were.
yeah. This one, I mean, this was just brutal to watch. I was just like watching back some of the highlights because it was almost like so like I don't know, it just got so dominating, like so lopsided. It was almost just like whatever at one point. But I mean, yeah, Mendoza
It was
was like
boring. It was a
it was
boring
boring.
game.
I mean, Mendoza was zipping it. Like, I mean, he was on point with his throws like all game. I mean, moving the ball with his legs. I mean, like just I mean, these receivers, like my goodness, like they were making acrobatic grabs. Like, I mean, but on the other side of the ball, the defense was just so ferocious. Like, I mean, Alabama could just not move the ball. Indiana was there. They were bigger, faster, stronger. I mean, menacing on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, they were just like dominating the lines of scrimmage again. Like, I mean, it was just like no contest. Like, who could imagine? Who could have imagined? Like, everybody was like, Indiana's like I said, like bigger, faster, stronger, better, just way better than Alabama. Physically dominating them. At the game of football, like in 2026. It's just like it's really unbelievable. And I mean, definitely produced like a lot of good memes, but yeah, just complete domination. Like I said, all the receivers caught, the three of them caught receiving touchdowns and two rushing the two backs scored running touchdown. Rushing touchdowns. I mean, Indiana ended up getting a lot of sacks. They dominated. Three different Hoosiers got sacks on Ty Simpson or Austin Mack. I mean, it just didn't look great. But I think one of my favorite memes from it was when someone was like, in the meme, someone's grandpa was like, back in the day, like Alabama used to, run everything in football, and then they're like, sure, grandpa, let's get you to bed. I was like, that one, I was like dying. I was like, yep, it's like,
Back in my day, Alabama used to run the college football playoff.
yeah.
Sure, Grandpa.
I mean, that's just like hilarious. It's just like because that's true. I mean, they've won like like 6 national championships, I think, under like Saban alone, and like they've when they've really been one of the top teams, if not the top team, in the sport for the longest time, and like now like not only is it like a different team, but it's a team like Indiana coming through like. I mean, it just shows like where the scheme's at. Any team could, like with the money and with the resources, they could be the next team. And I mean, yeah, so all the tradition, all the legacy and history of Alabama. I mean, you put that up against Kirk Cignetti and where the Hoosiers are, the steamrolling machine that they've been this season, and like you got no contest. So I mean, that was just a stunner, but on the other side of the coin, though, I think the best matchup of the weekend was Ole Miss versus Georgia. I mean, this game absolutely
Oof.
delivered. I mean, like my goodness, like this was like one that you couldn't take your eyes off. It was so good. Like absolute.
Absolute cinema.
Exactly. There we go. It really was. It really was. I mean, so first of all, I mean, their kicker, Ole Miss, like Lucas Carniero. I mean, he like has, in a weekend and in a sport where like a lot of teams just don't make kicks anymore for whatever reason. I mean, this guy was just not only making them, but he was making them from long range, easy. Like, I mean, he had the leg for 60, 65. Like, you know what I mean? He was just like he drilled them with room to spare. But then Georgia ended up, getting ahead 21-12. It kind of looked like they were the better team again. Things were kind of settling in, and Ole Miss also made some mistakes. They ended up dropping a few passes before the end of the first half. They couldn't get the ball snapped to cut it to 6, and I was like, oh, they're going to need more. They're going to need more. But I mean, 9 points wasn't like really a lot at the end of the day. I mean, both quarterbacks played really, really good. Gunnar Stockton, physical quarterback. I mean, rushing for touchdowns.
Yeah, I really, you really have to feel for Gunnar Stockton though, because that man put his body on the
Yeah,
line.
he really
You
did. I
know,
mean, every
he,
time he ended up running the ball, he took shots from the defense. I mean, yeah, and like one heck of a player. Like he took shots.
that's what
But
you
I
call
mean,
leaving it out all out on the field. That's
yeah,
what it was. It was leaving it all out on the field. It just couldn't get it done.
yeah, I couldn't get it done. But Ole Miss comes out of halftime. They ended up. I mean, their defense was ferocious. I mean, their tackles, their edge rushers, they got a lot of pressure. They got Georgia off the field. They started scoring on offense. They were down 24-19 through three quarters, and then they ended up going up 10 as well. I mean, and let's talk about Trinidad Chambliss. I'm like, my God, like I mean, he can absolutely ball. Like I mean, those passes that he was making in that drive where they were down still, and they looked like they were going to get off the field. I mean, Chambliss just like. I mean, I don't. He made three
He
of the most
started off in
ridiculous
Division Two,
throws.
by the way, everybody.
Yeah,
He
Ferris
started off in
State.
Division Two. Ferris
Yeah,
State, incredible.
I mean, what a story! But I mean, that he's really good too. I mean, those throws he was making, where he just the pitch, toss or whatever, kind of the so much pressure from the Georgia D line too. They were all over him. He had to like create like he was like Mahomes or Lamar Jackson and like just running for his life, and he just like flicks it, and then on the next play he gets chased around the field again. Gets it in their tight window, makes the extension. The receiver makes the extension, first down. So now you're like, okay, like, they really try to rattle him and like get him off the field, and he was still able to complete these passes. Like, I was just like, I was stunned. I was like, whoa. Like, I mean, the first one where he pitched it forward, he like flicked it, like almost like sidearmed it. I was just like, how is that even possible? Like, I mean,
Hey,
you
that looks
know,
a little Mahomey.
yeah, kind of, right? And then the second,
In the words of Chris
Chris
Collinsworth,
Collinsworth,
hey,
yeah.
that one looked a little Mahomey in
It really
there.
did, like, cause so he just kind of, kind of made a shovel pass, and that play looked like he was completely gonna be like, completely gonna be blown up, and he just created something out of nothing, and just picked up enough yardage. I was like, okay, they're still in this. And the next one they get a first down. Then the next one he rolls out to the right and launches like a missile downfield, and then we knew Ole Miss is in business. I mean, they're moving the ball. So then Quan Lacey scores a touchdown. They go up. Ole Miss gets another stop. They score again. Now, like, people are feeling it. Now they're like up 10, 9 minutes left. But Georgia then scores like pretty quickly. Cuts it to 3. So I mean, Georgia was not done yet, and then they end up tying the game like really late in the game. They end up tying it too, but it could have they could have had the win right there. They were just held out of the end zone by Ole Miss. Were forced to kick the field goal. You're like, okay, I mean, I guess that's all right, And then Chambliss again throws another like deep shot downfield. I mean, to set up Carniero at the game-winning kick. I mean, in the last second. So it was or in the last minute of the game. We weren't sure how that was going to go either. So that was another, I mean, strike by Chambliss. I mean, he was just like balling out in every spot that they needed him. He came through in a big way. And then Carniero getting the game-winning field goal. I think pretty much really, easily within his range. This time wasn't a very, very long attempt at all. And then after that, I mean, the game still kind of wasn't over because there was a late safety. Georgia ended up recovering an onside kick. I mean, they were really kind of trying everything as, they brought the trophy stage on the field. It was like, what's going on? But, there was just kind of keeping the game alive. So Georgia ends up trying a last second hook and ladder attempt, but obviously that one just didn't go that well, honestly. Well, I think they threw a forward pass, which is called. They also just didn't get there. But finally, the game ended. Yeah, and Rebels pulling off the upset. I mean, this is something I really did want to happen. I was very, very happy, very excited to see that get done. I wasn't too sure if they were going to be able to do it or not. I had faith, but I was just, I don't know. I mean, it was just like, it was really something else to see, like the way it happened, because they were up 9. Or they're down 9, they went up 10, then Georgia comes back and ties it, then they get the last second time. So I mean, just like, yeah, I mean, shout out to Pete Golding, as the interim coach, to be able to like get a win like that in
Oh
his
yeah,
second game. I
incredible.
mean, yeah, I mean, they went shot for shot with that Georgia team. They needed everything that they had to win because Georgia's a very good football team as well, and they played like it. But Georgia, I mean, Ole Miss was definitely the better team. I mean, when you think, offensively, defensively. I mean, better quarterback. I mean, I think that's really why they got the job done. I mean, the defense was relentless. The offense, definitely, was able to move the ball in every key moment, and that's pretty much what gave them the W.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, that ending sequence was wild with all the there's still 1 second left. There's still
I know.
one
I was like,
second
what
left.
is going on
That
here?
that entire time you're thinking like, is Georgia gonna pull off a miracle here?
Right.
But it never came to pass. Kudos to the Old Miss for keeping their head in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And now we are gonna head into what they're dubbing as convicts versus Confederates.
Oh my goodness. I'm like in the name of that. Like that's hilarious. Like yeah, because the Ole Miss Rebels, yeah, there's a long history of them with, I think having the Confederate flag and everything.
Well, they're the rebels.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like their whole like.
It's self-explanatory.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really need to explain where that comes from, but yeah, that's kind of like
And then
their
Miami has always been known as Miami Notre Dame has always been known as the
Catholics
Catholics
versus
versus the
Catholics.
convicts. So
Catholics versus
swap them
Confederates.
out.
Wow. I mean, yeah, that's something. But yeah, no, like I mean, this should be a good game. Like, Miami's actually the favorite, 3.5 point favorite. I know for a fact if Georgia won the game, they would have been the favorite. Because I saw the mock line, but I think it was like
Yeah.
1.5. But Georgia, but you know what I mean, like because they're not in now. Miami gets the nod of being the favorite, but I don't know. I think they should. I mean, it's kind of like two different teams, but they're kind of both similar too. It's just like Ole Miss kind of has all the weapons on. I mean, on the perimeter. They have a lot of speed. They probably have the better quarterback. I mean, I don't even think it's probably. They also have a lot of power on the D line too. I mean, that D line showed up in a big way. Miami, though, I mean, that's it's going to be trench
Yeah.
warfare again. I mean, they
Oh
definitely
yeah.
proved it what they could do on the ground and what they could do on defense as well, and on offense and in the run game. So I mean, that's kind of where we're at with that. I mean, I think Chambliss is definitely the better quarterback. Carson Beck's kind of like become like he was kind of like more like a game manager, I guess. He's hasn't really had like too much on his plate, I feel like, but he's been able to do what he's needed to do to kind of get the team to win, move the ball, like not really take too many risks. Like we saw like against Louisville where he kind of threw like I think he threw like 4 picks and stuff like that. Like it's kind of hard to like trust him in like a big moment sometimes, but like with the team around him, like I mean I think he's good enough to do what they can do. It's hard to like bet against Miami. I mean I think because of how they did against Ohio State, but I mean Ole
Well,
Miss,
I
yeah,
agree with you 100% there. It is very hard to bet against Miami. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think Old Miss is just going to bow out, but that pure control of the line of scrimmage against a very good Buckeyes team, especially on the offensive side of the ball, how they were able to dictate to that Buckeyes defensive line
right,
what was what. That shows to me that Miami can win big up front. That shows to me that when Miami will win big up front, and that's actually why I bet against the Hurricanes all this entire playoff. I'm not going to make that mistake again. Hurricanes are going to take down the Rebels and advance to the college football
All
finals.
right. Wow. Okay. Yeah. I
I
think
mean, I don't think you can
yeah.
argue with like again because
That's true.
I don't want to like go be like overzealous in my statements, but they really dominated that line of scrimmage against a very good Ohio
They
State.
did. Yeah, which
You
makes me
know,
think they
they
could do it
dominated
again.
that line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. Like, I just don't know if Ole Miss is like gonna be able to keep up with that for the entire game.
I just don't know if all Old Miss's lines are on the same quality that Ohio State's are.
Right.
You
That's what
know,
I.
and
Yeah.
that's what happened there. Ohio State really got rope raided by that by that by the lines of Miami. So I just don't know if
Yeah.
Old Miss is
That's
going to be able
true.
to keep up in that area, and that's the area that's going to decide the game, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, for Ole Miss to win, they're going to need another way of doing it. Like, yeah, I mean, the way they won the Georgia game was just an absolute shootout, but this game's going to be quite different. It's going to be, Miami's going to try to suffocate them, win the lines of scrimmage. Like, it's going to look a little bit different. And I think in that kind of game, like Miami, should be able to win against Ole Miss. I mean, just because of how dominant their defensive line is. I mean, they can get pressure on anybody. I mean, how good their run game is. Like, they can win games in the most important ways and on the lines of scrimmage. And I think after beating Ohio State, I think Ole Miss, I think they could definitely get the W. Even though I think Ole Miss has probably like the better skill players. But I think I think Miami's style of football I think is gonna win. I think it's hard to bet against them right now after what we saw the other day. You could probably say the same about Ole Miss too, but I think Miami's just more dominant on the lines of scrimmage, and I think at the end of the day, that's where these types of football games are won and lost. That's really where like almost like all football games are won and lost, I guess, and
Yep.
but especially like a heavyweight showdown like this, like where the teams are very evenly matched in talent, like that's definitely like the big indicator. Who can establish, who can establish the run, who can protect their quarterback, who can get after the other one. And right now, it looks like Miami has all the answers over there. So, yeah, I mean, especially in a game like that, I think Miami does win against Ole Miss. And then I guess going over to the other semi, I mean, we have a Big Ten rematch ahead of us. We have Oregon versus Indiana. Indiana won the game in the regular season. The only loss for either of these sides comes in that game where Indiana won 30-20 in Eugene at Autzen. Despite a pick six that ended up tying the game from Mendoza, they still end up winning the game, wearing them down. I mean, both of them were dominant in the quarterfinals. I think Indiana was more so. I
Oh,
guess
absolutely.
yeah. I
Indiana was
mean, they
more
were
so
38-3. They probably also played the easier opponent. I mean, I
there.
guess yeah. I mean, but they were more dominant, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, again, it comes down to like the same things, like which teams can get more their skill players more involved and be more dominant in the trenches. Because this is going to be one of those games too. Both teams have really good pass rushes, good O lines. They both have really good quarterbacks. But it's going to be a matter of who can get them used. Which quarterback can stand out more? Because Dante Moore, like we've kind of saw what happens when he gets rattled. I mean, Indiana put a lot of pressure on him. They had 6 sacks in their first game. That's really what swayed it to give the Hoosiers a win. Mendoza was able to dial it up. So I mean, yeah, not too many teams can really slow down the explosion of Oregon, but we've started to get to like the spot now where teams, like we saw Texas Tech do it, Indiana did it, I think a bit more even. So I think they could slow down Dante Moore enough where it can be, make things difficult. I think I've not really seen that on the other side of the ball where a team can really slow down Indiana enough to make things difficult, I guess. Oregon didn't quite really do that the first time around. I mean, Ohio State
I
kind
mean,
of
they
did
did
it.
get a pick six,
Yeah.
but that was it pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, they did get 6 sacks on Dante Moore, and then that was kind of like, they kind of just looked like a very different Oregon team that game. I mean, they were really slowed down and like yeah. I mean, I don't know who else has really been able to slow down Indiana in the same way. Like I feel like Indiana, they could slow down Oregon. and I think they have enough on offense now where they could really get the job done. I mean, Mendoza has, they have a good downhill run game. They have, a good pass game. I think we're all, now three receivers are kind of clicking when you add Charlie Becker into the equation. So I just don't know how you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how you stop this team. I think it'll be close-ish of a game. Like, I think Oregon's going to be able to score with them a little bit as well this time around. But I don't know. I think Indiana, when it matters most, I think it's going to be able to get it done again. Like I don't know. You know what I mean? Because I think they're going to be able
Yeah.
to slow down Dante Moore. I don't really see that on the other side of the ball. Like, yeah, I mean, Ohio State kind of did it. And even then, like, Mendoza was making big throws. And, even though it was a close game, you could tell, like, Indiana was going to make the big plays and Ohio State wasn't. And, you know what I mean? I think even if the game ends up being that close, somehow Indiana still, finds a way to win because they're going to, again, make the game, make all the big plays at the end of the day. And they're going to be able to get pressure on Dante Moore.
Yeah, it's that pressure that's going to make a large difference. As you mentioned before, 6 sacks against Moore in their first outing against one another.
Mm-hmm.
That just speaks for itself.
Yeah.
This is like one of the games, and honestly, you know what? This entire college football playoff, it this entire like semifinal is so refreshing in the sense that
It is.
only one
It
of these teams has
really,
won a championship before, um, and it wasn't even in my lifetime.
yeah, I
Not
know.
to, but like, they won in 2001. I was in 2002, so not to date anybody that's a Miami fan, but really, like they have not. None of these teams have won in my lifetime, and three of these teams have won overall. So, but anyway, as I was saying before, um, I love Oregon. Oregon is one of the Oregon is probably like the big dog that I'm first to root for when it comes to just picking somebody in the playoff because
Yeah.
we've had lovely experiences with Oregon fans. I've been on the Oregon podcast a couple times and they're great. Like they're very great hospitality, Unfortunately, for Ducks fans, this is where your run comes to an end. Um, Indiana really terrorized you the last time that they came out, especially with that defensive line. And that wasn't on a neutral field. That was in your stadium. They went to your house and did that.
Mm-hmm.
On a neutral field, give me the Hoosiers, and I'm not exactly upset about that one either. Love Indy,
Yes, sir.
very happy to see the lovable loser that was once Indiana has now climbed the mountaintop. But yeah, I
Right.
mean, I feel like for Indiana doing what they do gives hope for other programs to eventually get it right because Indiana
Right.
was awful for centuries, and then all of a sudden, 2 years they're in the semifinals. So maybe there is a blueprint for other teams to start getting it right.
Yeah. Like the one like behind
Like the
our
one, like the one right here.
right, the one on his flag, the one in my background. Yeah, I mean,
But
because
they do. But my point is, they do inspire hope for those
they really
teams that
do.
have not been good for a while now.
Exactly. I mean, yeah. Because they were, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, they were worse than Rutgers for the longest time, like in college
Yes, they
football,
were.
which is hard to do. Like, I mean, sometimes, but it's like when Rutgers was not doing well. I mean, they've also kind of like made some improvements as well over the years. But when Rutgers was doing worse and they were not really beating anyone, like like oftentimes it was kind of just like both those teams would. I mean, Rutgers would go 3-0, and they kind of struggle for like a Big Ten win. And if they ended up getting any, like that might have
They
been one
came
of
against
one of
Indiana.
exactly that was like the one Big Ten win they would have all season, or maybe one of two. And it was just like, okay, well something's really wrong over there. I mean, how's Rutgers beating this team and like nobody else? But Indiana was also like a hot mess. I mean, they were also kind of the same way. They were like maybe winning three non-conference games, maybe not even like not really. Yeah, exactly. Rutgers beat them even in the years where they weren't really winning much of anything else. So it's kind of like from that to like this where the Hoosiers are now. I mean, it's just like I mean, it's unthinkable. I mean, I remember like seeing Rutgers beat in person. I mean, seeing them beat Indiana 38-3. I mean, I remember seeing them beat Indiana.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was a bad one. I
You
mean,
were at that game,
I was
right? Where
at
they
that
were
game.
shirtless,
Yeah, with the
twirling in the
fan. Yeah,
background.
yeah. I mean, with the shirtless guy. Yeah, I mean, I remember all of that. It was just it's really bad. On I think they were down to their third string quarterback, which didn't help matters. But I mean, that same. I mean, Rutgers also wasn't great that season by any means, and like yeah. I mean, they were able to get a nice big victory, and they beat them. I think another time where I think in one of the 4-8 years, they ended up beating them 24-17. So it's just like, yeah, Indiana
Yeah,
just
that
wasn't.
was Christian Indians pick six, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah, I think that was one where Indiana got off to a 14-0 lead, and then Rutgers won the game later on. They ended
Yeah,
up making a
because
comeback.
like I said, off that Christian Indian pick
Yeah,
six,
yeah,
that was the
yeah,
last
yeah,
score of the game.
yeah. Now I remember
I was
because
at
they were
that game.
tied. Yeah.
Actually, I was right in front of when Izzy and jumped into the crowd. I was right there. I think I was on TV, like doing like
Oh
how
wow.
like when they jump into the crowd, everybody's
Yeah.
like smacking their
Yeah,
helmet
let's
and whatnot.
go. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's pretty tough. Yeah. No, I mean, like I mean, like, you think about how bad Indiana used to be at football. Like, I mean, they were just like again, worse
they
than we
have the
were.
most losses out of any team in
Yeah.
the FBS.
Yeah, exactly. The year that Rutgers won 6-2, and kind of walked all over them to get that bowl eligibility victory. I mean, it's just like, you just keep remembering this, and like, then these past 2 years, like, and I mean, we haven't played them since they got good. Like, it's a weird part. Like, it's gonna be like a big like. It's gonna be like a weird culture shock almost next time they come here, because it's just we haven't seen them like during this rise. But I mean, it's just an incredible rise, and yeah, it definitely provides hope for like other programs that are kind of in the same thing of like, oh, we can't really take the next step, we can't get further, and we're barely winning five
It's hope for
games
the
and calling it
fans
a
in Philly.
season.
It's hope for the
Yeah,
fans. It gives them
yeah,
something to
exactly.
root
Like,
for.
it shows that it doesn't have to be like this forever. Like, there's a way out. There's a way not only to the next step, but to the top.
There's a way to
I
get it
think,
right.
yeah, which a lot of people, are like, how's that possible? But I guess now in this age, and a day and age where there's, the NIL and the portal and this and that, I mean, any team can really do it if they have the right, the formula, you know what I mean? If you have all that, you have the right coaches, you have the right players. So that's a big part too. I mean, it's not that Indiana has tremendously more talent than anybody, but it's that they've maximized their talent the right way. They have the right coach, they have the right guys on the team. They develop, they, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they get the most out of their players that they get in the portal. Like, all those things really count, and that's what made them so good. Because they don't really have a lot of 4 or 5 stars still, even now. But I mean, you know what I mean? Like, they're very, like, for where they are, they're very under talented almost. But like, I mean, the way they play, like, you wouldn't know it at all. So I mean, they play like, they're the best team in the country. So, but yeah, I mean, it definitely does provide a lot of hope. I mean, it's just like, it's hard to see anyone beating this team now. I mean, they're dominant all over. The skill players, the quarterback is top notch. Mendoza, I mean, my goodness. I mean, the skill players are like very talented in the trenches. I mean, that defensive line. I mean, like, they're like absolutely like menaces, like at every single position. I mean, the O line is very good. Like, there's just like no holes on this team. I mean, they're very good, both physically, like stylistically. I mean, the way they play, like everything about them is just like they're a well-oiled machine. Like, I mean, they are a well-oiled machine. I mean, they look like they've been here on the stage for like 10 years. Like, that's they're just getting started. So yeah, I mean, it's insane like how good the Hoosiers have gotten. Yeah, I mean, I guess long story short, like, yeah, I mean, I think they're gonna win this one. It'll be fascinating to see a national championship game between Indiana and Miami in Miami. I mean, like, if you think about that, I mean, Mendoza, like, he's from there. Like, that family. They're from Miami. So I mean, for him to go back to try to win national championship in his own, his own city, against the host team. I mean, they're gonna be all fired up, as well, if they make the national championship game for the first time since like 2002, I think, since they lost to Ohio State way back then. I mean, it's really something else. if that's the environment for the championship game, if that's the matchup, if we end up getting Indiana versus Miami for it all. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm really looking forward to these semis. Obviously, starting tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow and Friday, and then I guess we'll be back to discuss everything again after that. But yeah, should be a really good slate. I guess another thing to mention was the FCS championship game was also very good. If you got to watch that between Illinois State and Montana State, went down right to the wire. Montana State built quite a big lead, but Illinois State kind of came back on them, and yeah, it was very entertaining to the finish. A lot of at the end, kind of missed bot snaps and stuff like that. Missed field goal, overtime touchdown. Again, a missed extra point from Illinois State, and then Montana State getting it done with the touchdown. Illinois State showing pressure on a blitz. That was just something else. And I
Oh
really
my
thought the pressure
lord!
was going to
What
work.
a
I was like, it was
game that
working every snap.
was!
Yeah, I
What
mean,
a
I was just
game!
it was again, it was like another cinema game. It was just like because I mean, Montana State had a big lead, Illinois State comes back, and you think they're gonna win it, and then it goes the other, it goes the other way in a block kick, and then I mean, then the other side, they fumbled, they muffed the snap backwards, and finally Montana State gets ahead on a touchdown on fourth down. They bring all the pressure. Didn't work, and then the Cats end up winning their first national championship since 1983 over a Redbirds team that I mean really had quite the incredible run just to get there. And
Yep.
yeah, the game delivered. It was a really good one if you get to watch that. I mean, the FCS playoffs are always really really fun. But I mean, that championship game has been something I've been watching, the last few seasons. This year, it definitely very much delivered, and yeah, I'm hoping these FBS games are going to be just as good. So yeah, I mean, hopefully they are. But in the meantime, I guess this has been another episode of Sports Vibe. 105 now in the books. College football, and we'll figure out. I guess maybe mix in some NFL next week. But we'll get to those semifinal games and preview the national championship. So until then, enjoy the weekend, enjoy the holiday, enjoy the first round of the NFL playoffs as well, and enjoy. I guess yeah, there's no more holidays, but enjoy the first round of the NFL games and enjoy the college football semifinals. And as always, the vibes are always high on Sports Vibe.
Have a good one, guys.